When the heavy alarm strikes at exactly 6 a.m., it instantly initiates a daily, unforgiving financial algorithm. The transition from sleep to calculation is instantaneous. Lighting the kitchen stove is no longer a simple domestic chore. The gas flowing through the burner is a finite, depleting resource that must be strictly quantified and rationed before the first cup of tea is even poured. This mental load falls heavily on the mother. Every immediate cost, from the morning milk delivery to the children's bus fare, is mapped against rigid constraints of a weekly allowance that refuses to stretch. This morning routine functions as a strict exercise in economic risk management. Domestic life in this house is the outward expression of a complex survival strategy. Rajesh prepares for work under the weight of soul provision. He carries the psychological burden of a man who knows the entire household stability depends on his ability to navigate the world outside. This graph illustrates the core economic trap defining his existence. While his income remains a flat, horizontal blue line, the ascending red curve of compounding inflation has overtaken it, driving the cost of basic survival further out of reach. This structural squeeze is the economic vice. It is a pressure generated by macroeconomic forces he cannot control, yet he must find a way to survive the tightening grip. The central challenge of the day is simple to state, but difficult to execute. Managing a 24-hour cycle within this vice without the family unit fracturing under the strain. External pressures enter the home through the children. They speak of new technology and weekend outings, their desires shaped by the lives they see their peers living. Neha and Rajesh respond with gentle deflection. They delay requests indefinitely rather than issuing an outright denial, using maybe as a tool to preserve the children's sense of security. Constantly suppressing the natural desire to provide for a child's happiness is a heavy psychological burden. Every deflection is a choice to prioritize the family's long-term solvency over immediate joy. These choices serve as necessary shields. They are calculated measures taken to ensure that the family unit remains functional and focused on the essentials. By midday, the house is quiet, and Neha takes on the role of household auditor. She sits alone with the hard numbers of the monthly ledger. She enumerates the non-negotiable overhead, the rising utility bills, the fixed school fees, and the essential rations required to get through the week. Eventually, the math reaches a point of failure. The projected expenses mathematically eclipse the available cash on hand. She corrects the deficit with a single decisive action. She takes her pen and aggressively eliminates a discretionary line item, permanently removing it from the month's possibilities. This is the silent sacrifice. It is a unilateral compromise made in isolation, entirely hidden from the rest of the family to spare them the stress of the shortfall. This unseen, everyday mathematical correction is a defining heroic act. It is the specific mechanism that single-handedly prevents total household collapse. Rajesh returns in the evening, treating the threshold of the home as a psychological boundary. He intentionally masks his economic exhaustion before walking through the door. The meal on the table is starkly simple. However, the family gathering around it provides a high emotional density and warmth that compensates for the lack of variety on the plate. The parents utilize humor and connection to deliberately override the underlying financial tension. They focus the conversation on the children's day, creating a space where the budget is temporarily irrelevant. Creating this pocket of shared joy is an act of emotional defiance. It's a refusal to let strict financial constraints dictate the home's atmosphere. When the children are finally asleep, the late-night quiet reveals the raw reality of the parents' financial anxiety. The distractions are gone, leaving only the numbers. This closed-loop cycle shows the reality of their struggle. The daily calculation has yielded no permanent escape. They move from morning deficit to silent sacrifice to nightly anxiety, only to begin the same strategy for the next shortfall. Within this system, strength is defined as pure stamina. True power lies in the capacity to inhabit an unfixable cycle indefinitely, meeting every new deficit with quiet resolve. Middle-class heroism is fighting a relentless, unwinnable mathematical war in absolute silence, and still finding the strength to smile for those who depend on you. It's 5:30 in the morning. The alarm hasn't even gone off yet. While the rest of the house is still, Rajesh is already wide awake, his mind already moving. For most people in his position, the body eventually gives in to the exhaustion of the previous day, but the mind stays trapped in the logistics of the next one. Physical sleep is possible. Psychological rest is much harder to find. He stares at the ceiling, wondering if the work he puts in today will be enough to protect his children tomorrow. The house is silent, a quiet that usually signifies peace. But for Rajesh, this silence only highlights the individual weight of everything he has to provide. These are the internal, invisible struggles that set the baseline of tension before the day even begins. As the sun comes up, the internal anxiety shifts into practical management. Neha is in the kitchen, initiating the day's logistical planning.
On the monthly budget, Neha crosses out individual wants, a new sari, a night out, until only non-negotiables like rent and groceries remain. These essentials expand to consume every dollar, showing how home stability depends on erasing her own desires. This silent financial discipline is the invisible framework that holds the household together. This environment isn't lost on the children. Arav and Pihu have learned to read the unstated economic temperature of the house. When Arav's phone rings with an invitation to go out, he checks the notification and lets it go. He has already calculated that saying no to his friends is easier than asking his father for the money. Pihu does the same, telling her mother she'd rather just play at home today. She frames a financial compromise as a personal preference. This is silent maturation, the moment children begin to preemptively suppress their own needs out of empathy for their parents. They grow up quickly, guided by a protective instinct to reduce the burden their parents carry. While the home tries to maintain its balance, external forces at Rajesh's office are pushing in the opposite direction. This chart shows the rising pressure. While compensation remains flat, management demands steeper targets, creating a gap Rajesh must fill. This flat line translates directly into the tight household budget, directly threatening the family's stability. Corporate pressure acts like a compressor. It squeezes his emotional bandwidth until the internal tension reaches its limit. By the time Rajesh walks through the front door, he is carrying the cumulative weight of every demand made since 5:30 in the morning. It only takes one small, insignificant household irritation for that pressure to vent. A raised voice and a sharp word disrupt the domestic peace. The air in the room changes instantly. Neha and the children fall into a shocked silence, absorbing the outburst. Rajesh feels the regret immediately. He knows this isn't who he wants to be, and it certainly isn't the environment he's been working so hard to protect. When the pressure from the outside finally breaks through the walls of the home, it fractures the very peace the provider has been fighting for all day. But then comes the repair. Rajesh sets aside his pride, approaches his children, and offers a simple, sincere apology. The children respond with a smile. In this house, the underlying love is strong enough to move past a moment of friction. This is the reality of a functioning family. It involves mistakes and immense pressure, but it prioritizes the work of fixing what gets broken. These intertwined hands represent Asli Amidi, true wealth. It is found in the presence of mutual understanding and the strength of the bond, regardless of the financial status. If you see your own daily life in this story, share it. It might remind someone else that their struggle is seen and understood. The middle-class path is a difficult one, but the solidarity found within the home ensures that every new day comes with the possibility of hope. Where there is understanding, there is genuine wealth.